can help no one that don't want to help themselves. But I'm
Mm.
giving you the resources, right?
Yeah.
I'm putting like the goal is to have. There are a lot of companies that want to hire athletes.
Yes.
94, yeah, it is more than 94. This is more than 94. Yeah, this more than 94. 90, more than 94, yeah.
And welcome to another episode of More Than 94, where athletes redefine success. Today's guest, we have Abiola Wabara. She is a former Baylor Bear. She's a project manager for a global tech consulting firm today. She's a visual artist, and she's also the founder and CEO of Global Life. Um, a quick overview: she was born and raised in Italy by Nigerian parents. She came to the States to play basketball at Baylor. She's a national champion. Um, she got her master's in international business management. Once she was done with that, she struggled for about a year to figure out her life after ball, but she finally landed on her current job as an Accenture, where she has been for 8 years this February. She's a visual artist. Is it polyglot?
Polyglot, yeah.
She is a polyglot and a DIY queen. Welcome to the show, Abiola. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for that great introduction.
Yeah, that's good. That's great. So you're the first championship for the Baylor Bears.
Yes, 2005. I just gave my age away, dang. But yes, 2005, the first championship
Oh,
at
that's
Baylor
awesome.
with the Smoky. Yeah.
Well, okay. What position did you play?
Uh, 3, 4, like power forward.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
great. I went to I know one of the assistants now there, Tari Cummins. So I've only been to one game, I guess.
Oh,
Yeah,
really? Like recently?
last season.
Oh, okay.
I
Nice,
think
nice, nice.
was it the new head coach? Maybe she's been there two
Hmm.
years, 3 years. But yeah,
Yeah, I think that
I
was
went.
the second year. Yeah.
Yeah, the clock gets me, but
Yeah, the
uh,
call.
I thought that was kind of hilarious. We want to start off just again want to highlight the stories of people doing exceptionally well after sports, after collegiate basketball, and having a great professional life after that. So, can you kind of walk us through what it was like? First of all, you grew up in Italy, but like, how did sports and specifically basketball? How did that come about? Like, can you walk us through like how did you from little kid to how you
Yeah.
got to Baylor?
No, absolutely. That was actually very random because I knew nothing about basketball growing up. My parents Nigerian. Sports was never like a big thing in our family. I mean, soccer, I guess, because Italy and my brother plays soccer. I was not going to do that. Um, and one day I was actually walking one of my friends to we had like the sports area in my hometown. It's like a building where most of the offices for sports are, and we don't have sports in school, right? So you
Okay.
go to school and then you play in a club. So you have to like pay to be on a team or whatever. So my friend wanted to play fence. So I walked her into the fencing office, just like whatever she was doing. And across the street, there was across the hallway, there was like the basketball office. And they saw me and they was like, "Hold up, who's that?" She saw, and she's black. I'm in Italy, so it's not me.
The stereotype.
Uh, so they kind of like asked me, like, "Hey, do you want to play basketball?" I was like, "I don't know what that is." Um, and then one of the coaches ended up coming to like our like I think it was like middle school. I was 12, so middle school,
Yeah.
and during like PE class, and he like taught basketball for that day, and he was like, "Okay, yeah, you're gonna come and play basketball for us." So that's how I kind of started playing like club basketball.
Okay.
And the cool thing is, like in Italy, like I said, we don't have school sports, right? So you know how like players go overseas?
Yes.
Those are the teams where the kids are like brought up into. So as a teenager, I'm practicing on teams with Cynthia Cooper, Tisha Peniche,
Wow.
in my hometown. So that's how I was like, "Ooh, I want to do what they do.
Yeah.
I want to grow up to be like them." And that's kind of how college started to become something that I can think about in the future.
Okay, because that makes sense now. Now I put it together because when you watch the Olympics, or like, I think Baylor just went to Italy,
Hmm.
um, and so those girls could be what starting at what age and can be playing all with like grown women, correct?
15, 16, yeah.
Yeah, so they played against like I guess that age. So they
Hmm.
okay, that makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, and
Um,
like the town I'm from is called Parma. And do you remember the love of basketball, the last championship game,
yes.
Spanish game? Like the Spain was playing against the Parma team, like my home.
Okay.
Team. It was back in the day that was like a big team in Europe. So a lot of like the stars from the
Played
'90s
on
and
that team.
2000s over there. Yeah,
Oh, that'd have been neat. Like, playing against Cynthia Cooper or practicing with her. That'd have been
yeah, she's
pretty.
she's intense.
That's awesome. So, how was that transition for you, coming from Italy and then coming to Baylor?
Ooh, my first year, I was ready to go home.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna lie. The cultural shock was intense. I think what really made it home for me was finally being in a place where I wasn't the token. I wasn't the only one,
Oh, okay.
and
Yeah.
people didn't stare at me 24/7. Like I had three heads, but I had people that looked like me, and I started to feel more at home in that space. I started to like learn more about myself and not feel self-conscious all the time because I did back home as a teenager, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's what kind of kept me here. um, I redshirted my first year, my freshman year, so that made it tough to kind of like, I wasn't playing, but I was
Hmm.
practicing once I was done with my injury. And but the culture was the it was the biggest thing I would say because my parents are Nigerian, so I grew up speaking English at home,
Yeah.
but it was like British English. So
Oh.
when I came here, like my team was majority black, and there was a lot of slang that I have no idea what they were talking.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I took everything literal. So when we were saying "What's up," I was like, "Oh no."
Oh.
Looked up. So, I figured it out and, like
Yeah.
less than a year later I was part of the team in full. But I think just being able to have like great teammates, that's what helped me want to
That's what
stay.
happened. Yeah, that's good. What's up? Oh, I don't know what's up there. That is hilarious. You just don't realize that because I don't think my college career, we never had anybody from outside of the states. So I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure it's a different kind of, even on the like basketball terms, I would think it would be a little bit of a struggle to learn
Oh
like
yeah.
how we say certain things, like I don't know,
Hmm.
crash the boards. Some people,
Yeah.
I don't, so stuff like that I would never think about until you mentioned that, and I'm like, oh, they
Yeah.
have to. You probably have to. The coaches probably had to say stuff a different way or explain every time what that meant. That yeah,
Right.
on both sides, yeah, mainly.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. So I heard, I looked up a little bit of um, the global life. I'm gonna jump a little bit ahead and we'll come back. But can you
Hmm.
kind of explain that, like your passion in that?
Yeah, absolutely. So once I was coming to the end of my like basketball career as a pro, my last year, like I said, I went and got my master's. And what I did is in England at the time, the league wasn't as good as it is now,
Yeah.
and they didn't have money. So I reached out to the coach, who knew I was because we played against with the national teams. And so I asked, like, hey, if you pay for my master's, I will play for you, because I know you can't pay me what I'm used to. But if you pay
Right.
for my master's, you pay for my apartment, I'll come and play for you. And so that's what I did. So I got my master's, but then once I graduated, I did not know what to do with that job. So that year was like very sad, like very depressing, and just
Yeah.
not knowing what to do and trying to figure out my who I am outside of
Your
sports.
identity. Yes.
Right, yeah, I completely lost my identity. So that's what made me want to build global life
Hmm.
because I started to think like, okay, I'm pretty resilient. Like I'll figure it out, like just like I did for the masters and stuff. But not everyone is as stubborn, and not everyone might have the resources. But everyone goes through the same process once we're done playing. Like we all go
Yes.
through this stage of trying to figure out who we are, what else
Yep.
we're good at, where else we could go. And so that's why I became passionate about that because I knew basketball was not my future as far. Like, I don't want to be a coach. I don't
Right.
want to be involved in that space, but I still wanted to be able to give back to the game. And
Hmm.
to me, this is giving back to the players in that sense, like helping everyone succeed in the next stage of our lives.
Yeah, because you get that. You're right. Is that first of all the identity crisis, and then you just don't have time to figure out while you're playing what you're gonna do
Right.
after because you're not thinking about that. You're 18 something years old. You're just thinking about I gotta practice, practice, practice. So you don't even have a chance to start to think about like, oh, this is my last game. What am I gonna do when this
Yeah.
is done? And
Yeah. Right.
so that's kind of like obviously it's kind of the kind of similar here. It's just sharing those stories where like people don't have it figured out. Like we didn't have it
Hmm.
figured out when we stopped playing. Like so that's good to kind of bridge that gap of that year of trying to figure out. And so, how did you kind of come up with outside of your? It was it mainly your just situation that's how you kind of had that birth because of what you went
Honestly,
through.
yes, because I was like, this should not be this lonely of a process. It should not be
Yeah,
this difficult. At like, because I can imagine, right? Like, if I think about like the the experience of a non-athlete student, they might
yeah,
have internships during the summertime, so they start, network and things like that. We don't do that because we are at the gym 24/7, right?
correct.
And even when you go pro, you don't think about that because again, we are in the moment. Even though you do have a lot more time when you play professionally because we only practice 4 hours a day at most, but we don't think that far. So going through that process myself, it was just kind of like a light bulb. I was like, oh no,
Yeah,
I but I also been doing something similar to what you do, like on the Global Life platform. I interview athletes that has transitioned to just speak of their transitioning experience, and the stories are always very very similar. So they
yes,
kind of consolidated my thought process, and it's kind of validation really that I'm going in the right direction with this process.
yeah. So what? So I'm gonna ask you a question. Like, so what is? What could you think? What do you think that colleges, or if it's even possible, that they could do better to help that transition a little bit easier? Like, because there's really no resources, and like I knew it wasn't resources when I graduated in 2012. And I'm like, surely then by now they got resources because they have all the resources for mental health now and stuff like that. You would think that they have those resources for kids to transition, and it's still not any resources to make that transition.
Yeah, it's definitely an open market, and universities are like groups that I'm targeting as well, right? Because it's
Hmm.
not just for pros; it's from like college
Just
and
yeah,
pro, right? But at DC, some schools are starting to implement a life after sport. I don't want to call it a course, but some sort of like it's like I don't know, let's call it a course for now because I can think of the word. But basically, the students that are juniors and seniors have to go through this class to graduate. And I don't know how many schools have this because I know I was in conversations with Rice about going to do a workshop and things like that, and it
okay,
resonated well with them because they have a program for juniors and seniors that need to be, in that class to learn what to do for transition. And so I think they're starting to understand that it's needed,
yes. Hmm.
but it's still like a lot of room to grow for sure.
Yeah, and I was thinking, even with somebody asked me at that interview, like, what's the resource? And I was like, I have a book, but like after outside of the book, like what are it's like I'm still thinking like, what are the next steps? Like, who do you like come into like contact with to like, okay, I want to do a way, like does a webinar help? Like, because I think about like, I'm 18 years old. Am I really trying to hear it? Am I really trying to hear about how to transition? Like, am I in that
Right.
mind frame as an 18-year-old? Am I trying to transition? Because people are like, well, I'm still got time to play. And I was like, but it's still a good thing to think about. So I'm like, or are they even receptive enough at the collegiate? Because I'm thinking about collegiate, and I'm not even thinking about pro, but more of the collegiate. Like, are they
Yeah.
receptive enough to even want that knowledge?
I think yes and no. I think yes, it is like they might be receptive, but too late in the game. Once they realize that okay, this is really it, right?
Yeah.
Because and I'll never forget this. Coach Moki one day came in the off in our locker room, and she just looked at the whole team. It's 12 of us, and it was like, all right, guys, like we have to keep it real. Out of the 12 of you, three are gonna go pro. The other ones, you have to figure out life after ball.
Right.
And she
And
was
that's
on the
and
ball,
I'm glad she did that because some people just need to hear that
right? So I feel like a lot of athletes don't want to believe that until it's too late.
until it's too late.
Um, but again, like being that you are just graduating, I don't see, regular students graduating go straight into the job. They still have that transition phase as well, right? The
Right.
only difference for us is we didn't put that much effort into figure out where to go,
Where to go.
to what else we could be good at, what else we have a passion for outside of sports. And I think what we're trying to do with Global Life is that to your point, I don't want to make it a boring thing where I'm just talking to you about what you should do
Yeah. Right.
because you can help no one that don't want to help themselves. But I'm
Right.
giving you the resources, right?
Yeah.
I'm putting like the goal is to have there are a lot of companies that want to hire athletes, like a
Yes.
lot,
Yes.
which I didn't know. So I'm trying to put them all in one place so you can see who wants to hire who. And but you have to go through some skill assessment, like making sure that you have the right skill set for them. Because I'm
There you
not
go.
gonna have you go to that job without being somewhat prepared.
Right.
right? So you have to put in the work, but the resources are all in one place for you, and you don't have to hear someone just telling you what to do. You're doing it
Correct.
for you.
Yes. And I think that's a big deal because I'm like, even as an adult, when I've gone to certain places, they don't even deal with like basketball. Like I go to a real estate conference, I'm like, I don't want to listen to what you did in your stats. Like, how do
Right.
I do this myself? Like, I
Exactly.
didn't pay to come to listen to your resume. Like, I came to play. Like, what can I put into practice so I can be successful? And so,
Exactly.
yeah, that's good. So I'm gonna backtrack a little bit about your current position that you have
Mhm.
with Accenture. Did I say that correctly? Right, Accenture.
Yeah.
Can you kind of walk us through like how even just sports prepared you for that particular job and how you've used your background in sports to maybe get over hurdles or talk about any struggles that you had in the work field?
Yeah, definitely. So I think it's twofold because initially when I first started working there, I was hiding the fact that I was an athlete because I didn't want to be seen as like a dumb jock that didn't like was here but didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
And then, eventually it came out in conversation when they start asking you, well, what did you do before here? I was like, dang, all I did was basketball. Like,
Yeah.
and they were like, why would you start with that? I was like, I just didn't think that was like a good thing to start with. But long story short, corporate love athletes because they see how dedicated and resilient we are.
Mm-hmm.
And then for myself, the way I use sports, I kind of call myself living life in quarters, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I lived the first half. It was like the first quarter was me, as a kid. Then the second quarter is like the pro life, and now I'm in third quarter, right? But when I came into the game, I was like a little bit behind from my age peers, right?
I got you.
So what I did is I set a goal for myself. Like, you know how you finish practice, you have to make 2 for 2 on your free throws.
Yes.
So for me, it was like, right? So for me, it was like, okay, I need to make manager in 5 years to catch up with my age mates because I started as an analyst and I'm there with like college graduates, and I'm like,
Yeah.
dang, I'm old. And obviously, everyone have the different journey, so I wasn't necessarily comparing, but like the athlete mindset helped me put like a goal that I wanted to
Yes.
achieve,
Yeah.
and I made up some people that I was competing with. They didn't know I'm competing with them. It was just for me to be able to
Right.
push myself.
Yeah.
So I think being an athlete helped me a lot there. And then also, I would say like it's a very team oriented job. Was
Okay.
as consultant, we work in teams, and so that's been helping me a lot because I'm able to relate to different people and meet them where they're at, um, and find like the right person to help me also be better at what I am, right? So find assist from someone on the team. So I think that's where sports really helped me, so far.
So when you're since you said you work in a team aspect, is there what are some difficulties that you've faced that you obviously when you're on a championship team there's certain roles that you have to take certain things so and because my experience in corporate America with team is just like you got people that may have never played a team sport so they don't know what it truly means to be a teammate, right?
Yeah.
And so like how have you approached that kind of situation in your work?
It's been interesting, and again, you're exactly right. There are people that are just so very focused on themselves and their individual goal. And
Yeah.
honestly, the way I kind of like figure out a way to navigate that is being saying in the most corporate way possible that hey, if I do well, you do well too. So we need to help each other because
Yes.
otherwise we're just both sinking. Even though you think you're doing great, if
Mm-hmm.
I F it up, you're not going to be good either. So you might want to help me out so your stats look good,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Um, and I had to learn how to start doing that because, like I said, initially I was like second guessing myself because everyone
Yeah.
is engineering, everyone is like MBA, they have different degrees that made more sense than my Spanish undergrad, right?
Yeah, I got
Um,
you.
but it was more so a matter of understanding that if I'm here is because I went through the interview process. They thought I was good enough to be here. So the imposter syndrome, I had to work on that a lot. But eventually, I learned that hey, it's a team, and the only way this can work if we help each other, and just really vocalizing that.
Yeah, I think that's great because it's not it's the same, but it's also a lot of those skills transfer over, but a lot of times they do for us. But like then you are faced again with people that have never played a team sport or just never
Mhm.
played sports in general, and they don't sometimes grasp. Like, listen, if we all do well, if I score 30 points and we lose, then no, it doesn't matter. If I
It's
score
not
10 points and 5 rebounds and we win, guess what? You scored 20 points, great. I'm fine, because the goal is winning. The goal is not to
exactly,
get personal stats. And so I think it's a
exactly.
little bit different in corporate America, because it's like, well, I'm here for a paycheck. I get that. But we also, if we have a project due or whatever that may be, like, we all have to do
Right.
our role. There's a finance department for a reason. There's this department
Yeah.
for a reason. So I think that's a good little aspect, because I feel like we always like, yeah, those attributes do transfer, but like, we're coming into contact with people that may not have those same attributes, and so
Exactly.
how
Yeah.
do we
So it's
navigate
like
that?
it was like we're talking different languages, but we don't know each other language, right? So we need to
Right.
find a common language. And I think just meeting people where they're at and like making them understand that you're not there to step on their toes or to take over their roles is just, I'm here to help. I'm here to help you achieve your goal. I'm here to help me achieve the goal, but more importantly, like us. Like if we can
Yes.
do this as us, we'll get there faster.
Yes. That's
So,
yes. Good. 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 So reflecting back, like, on your career and your journey, what are some of the biggest challenges you faced, and how did you come overcome that? What kind of mindset did you have during some of those challenges, either basketball or your current role at Accenture?
yeah. Well, basketball wise, I could say I was never a star. Like I was never like the the one on the poster for the team, right? But one thing that I realized over time is like I'm perfectly fine with not being that player because personality wise, I don't really like that much attention, so it was
Yeah.
perfect. But somehow on every team I've been on, I ended up becoming a starter because the work that I did as far as
Yeah.
like, I was a defensive player, right? So like defensive player of the year, like those are the awards that I didn't even know existed. Like when
Right.
Coach Moki told me that, I was like, Coach Moki, stop making stuff up. Like they gave Sophia the like, no, Abby, the defensive player is a real thing. It's like, really? That's cool. But those are the things that you do that no one really notices, but your coaches and your teammate appreciate. So I think for me it was getting
Mm,
over the fact that I didn't know if I had a position or not on these teams, and then eventually working my way through them and finding that role, right?
yeah.
Um, at work, it was just getting used to not knowing, like
Oh.
not being the best at what I do. So basketball, I can always figure out my way around it, right? Like if I
Mhm.
mess up my shot, go work on it, like whatever. But in corporate, if I don't know what's going on, I just don't know what's going on. There's so much Googling I can do in one day.
Yeah.
And so to me, the hardest thing was just realizing that I had to be comfortable with being ignorant in that moment and then just,
Mm,
you know, make alliances with people that knew. And I made it a purpose to always be in a room with people that are smarter than me that can answer my questions. And I learned to just ask questions. And now, like, I will ask anything as long as he helped me understand what's going on faster.
mhm.
I will ask. And I got over that fear of asking and be afraid to sound dumb. So I'll preface that, hey, this might sound silly, but, and then I'll ask my question because I just need to know.
You just need to know. That's good. And I think that's good for, like, again, those college athletes. It's okay not to have it figured out. It's okay not to
Yeah.
know, and to ask those questions and to ask people. Because I'm thinking, like, now that I look back, like, those boosters, like, having conversations with them, and you may never know who owns what business. More than likely, if they're there, they own something, or they spend a lot of
Mhm.
time around the sport. Like, so
Yeah.
they either owning something. So asking the questions and doing that, because I, even though I hated it with my whole soul, we used to have to do a boy. It's called a mock Boyer mile, but we would have boosters come out, and literally they would watch us run a mile. Like, why are you? What else? Y'all got nothing else to
That's
do today
awful.
besides watch us run a mile. But it was so much more than a mile. It was just like, we afterwards we had to walk with them and talk with these people, and by default, like, my first job was with my coach's wife at the time, and so just asking the question, talking to people, even though that was not my thing. Like, I never wanted to. I was very vocal on the court, but off the court, I was not. And so
Yeah.
just talking and figuring it out like that in that way, and that landed me my first job,
That's
big
awesome.
girl
But that's how it
job or
should be.
whatever. And so that's why I was
Yeah.
like, that's so that it wouldn't. And so I don't know, like, some programs emphasize community service, emphasize boosters, and some programs don't. And so that's why I was like, it's different wherever, everywhere you go, it's different. It could just be all business,
Yeah.
all basketball, and nothing else. They don't get in the community, they don't talk. So it's just people's, even, it doesn't matter you go to Baylor, I went to Arkansas State. Like it's just different environments and different coaches
Yeah.
on how they see what's important to them. So that's what they're
Yeah.
gonna put on to the players on emphasizing what's important.
I know,
And so I think
100%.
yeah. And so there that gap is it's just it's mind blowing that it's that I just think about it that there's still that gap there. As
Yeah.
many
I feel like maybe now, especially with the NIL deals, they might be more prone to helping these players because now they're making money. And
yeah.
how are they going to manage their money later, right? Because the ones they're going to keep playing, they might make some more. But once you're done, did you blow your money on your sneak connection
Yeah.
or did you
Yeah.
save for after, right? So I hope that they are actually thinking about how to help them learn financial education and literacy while they're
Yeah.
in school as well.
Yes. And open to doing it and not listen to like your parents because most of these kids parents never probably had that much money in the first place so they can't really talk to them about how to manage it. Um so going back to like what are some things that you may have done differently if you were now looking back to where you are now? So like what is there some things you may have wanted to do different as an collegiate athlete? Nothing, not like not a regret, but just if you
Yeah,
had to
yeah,
pick
yeah.
something to do different, like you know, I don't
Yeah.
know.
So I think I will get over my like shyness because when I first came, my accent was a lot thicker. So I
Yeah,
wasn't like I didn't talk
well
much.
that's
I literally
understandable. Yeah,
I only had like my teammates were my friends. Like I was cool with the other athletes, but I just didn't do much, right? So
yeah,
if I were to go back, I would definitely change. I would try to be like more outgoing and more like outspoken. And to your point, talk to the boosters, talk um to the club ladies that will come. And I'm like I still have like conversation with some of the fans that were Baylor fans 20 years ago.
yeah,
Uh, they follow my artwork. They email me just to tell me things, and it's amazing. But I built that relationship over the years. Once I got more mature, and understood like, hey, it's okay to talk to folks. Like
yeah,
so, so yeah. If I could go back, I think I would try to be a little bit more open and outspoken,
yeah,
and build on those relationships better. Yeah,
yeah. That's good. That would have probably been my answer as well.
yeah,
And I wasn't shy. I just was like, I just didn't. If I didn't feel like I had nothing in common or whatever, I would just
yeah.
like I'm here for one thing, and that's play basketball and get an education, and that was it. So you kind of
That is,
miss when you just have that. Sometimes you have that just tunnel vision. You miss like other things that could have helped or whatever,
yeah.
or even relationships with your teammates that you may have still have today.
Hmm.
But can you like give us any? Could you give us uh, a young, well, somebody that's getting ready to leave college? What is something that you would have wished somebody would have told you, or any advice to give to the next Abby that's leaving Baylor this
Yeah,
season?
yeah. I will
Basically,
definitely say go do internships, regardless to what you do after.
yeah,
If you don't know what you want to do, test them out because it's easier to figure out what you don't like than what you do like. So rather than getting stuck in a career and then you're there for however many years
yeah,
hating life, taking it like a little bite size, right? Like no one's expecting you to have your career figure out at 19, 20,
right,
but you can start testing things out, right? So do an internship, like a paid internship, so you can still get your bills paid,
yeah,
but it's not a long-term commitment, right? You can just figure out, okay, I like this, maybe I want to stay, or
yeah,
I don't, let me try something else. And then also I would say network, like go to networking events. They are very overwhelming sometimes, but you can find two or three people that might have some really good insights on things that you have never thought about.
yeah.
Um, so I would say like, yeah, networking, like looking up like on Eventbrite, just hey, networking event about and put whatever topic is of your interest.
Oh, that's good.
And
Yeah,
if it's real estate, networking events or real estate, go and talk to people and just let them, hey, I just graduated. I'm just looking for
yeah.
connection, internship, whatever. I think that would be something that would have opened my like viewership of opportunities out there a lot wider.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But just knowing that, and when you say that, like I don't even know if I knew where to look. Like, right, you just said Eventbrite. Like, I would have never thought to just Google. And now I'm talking about even today. Like, I don't even think I would have Googled in Eventbrite. So that's a good little Like
Yeah.
that's good little nugget to be like, oh, go to Eventbrite, especially if you're even if you're new to the town or something, so you don't know.
Hmm.
That's a good thing. But like I'm thinking back in 2012, I don't even know where I would have tried to go look for a networking event.
Yeah.
Um, because I guess online wasn't it was online, but it was not as robust as it is now.
True. Yeah.
But now that it is, like, essentially, you kind of don't have that many excuses on how you because you can just at this point just type in
You can
anything and find anything.
ask ChatGPT. ChatGPT is my
Oh,
literally
ChatGPT is my
is my
personal assistant.
yep. They use it for
So
everything, anything. So
um I'm gonna jump back into because I don't think I asked you. I'm gonna jump back. How did you go about getting the position that you got to that you hold today? How did that process go? I didn't hit on that.
if I tell you that, you will never believe me. So remember how I told you at like the first year was just I didn't know what to do. So I literally Ubered, and then I was doing art shows, and I was just selling my art for money because I
Oh,
didn't want to be stuck in a job that I didn't like. So Uber and art. And one day I picked up this lady that saw I had a Baylor sign on my car. So she's like, "Hey, I went to Baylor," and so
yeah.
we start talking. And she was like, "Well, so what, why are you doing Uber?" I was like, "Well, I just came back from my master's. I'm trying to figure life out. I'm driving around with my resume in my car." So I was like, "But here, this is what I've done so far. This is the type of jobs I'm looking for." And
Okay.
so, long story short, she says, "My husband works for this company called Accenture, and I think they will love people like you." So she gives me his card. I sent him my resume, and literally the next day, I received the call from HR saying we would like to onboard you for interviews. So I went through 3 rounds of interviews over the phone and one in person, and then I ended up getting the job. But it was the right place, the right time, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was driving around in Uber with my resume in my car and running into this lady.
Oh, that is kind of that's that doesn't happen every day.
Right.
But
So
like
yeah,
if you didn't have that Baylor thing up there, she may not have ever asked you the question.
yeah, yeah.
Maybe,
And the
maybe
crazy
not.
thing is, I didn't want to drive that day because she was going to the airport, and Houston is humongous. So that was like a good 45-minute drive there.
Yeah.
And I hate driving, but Uber was, easy
I
money to
mean,
do what
in Houston, you can make a decent living. Yeah.
right. And so I was like, I'm glad I drove because I really was about to be like, no, I'm not going to drive today. And I'm
Yeah.
glad I did.
Dang. Well,
So
yeah.
yeah,
And so, where do you talk about? Because you had said talk about the part of like you kind of set yourself up to where you didn't want to have to, you just didn't take any job because you were looking
yeah,
for money. So, kind of speak to that because I feel like some people feel like they have to take a job, and some people have to take a job because of money. But like, kind of speak to that because
yeah,
there's a lot of people that just go take a job. It's like I gotta get bills paid, but I hate where I work. And
yeah.
so everybody
I
doesn't have that
mean,
luxury of not taking that they don't
right.
necessarily love.
Right. And like I'm gonna preface that by saying I definitely had the privilege of having a healthy savings account because of the years playing basketball, right? So without that one, I might not have been able to be as, selective. Um, so I'm very aware of the position I put myself in. But for me it was just applying to different jobs. And I'll never forget because there are some jobs that are not very clear about what it is. So I will apply. I will have my old like cute, corporate outfit on. Go in there. Come to find out it's a sales job, door to door. I'm like, dude, I'm not knocking on people's doors selling AT&T. Like, I'm not doing that,
Yeah.
right? Why won't you just describe the job as that though? Like, it
Yeah.
sounded like something else completely. So I ran into like a bunch of those, and I was like, no, I'm not desperate enough yet. Like, I will not.
Right.
So that was what was happening. I kept having interviews, and actually, did start working as a personal trainer at
Okay.
Equinox. So it was like a real nice gym. And the reason why I chose that gym is because the membership is so high that I knew the client had good jobs.
Yeah.
And so I could now work with clients while I'm training them, knowing that it's not a long term thing for me, but at least I'm making money. I'm in the gym, which is an environment that I enjoy.
Hmm.
And I'm not like stuck in a job that I hate, even though I know for me, I need security. Like being a trainer is like you get your money based on how many clients you
You
have.
have, yeah.
And I need a salary. I just need to know how much money I'm going to make every month. I don't need to
Right.
guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but that was great. Actually, funny enough, the week that I got my job at Accenture, one of the clients at the gym, we start talking. He told me he worked there. So like, oh my God, you can tell me all about this company. I just got my offer yesterday,
Yeah.
right? So it was definitely picking and choosing in a way that made sense for what my goals were,
Yeah.
right? So I could have become a trainer at 24,
Right.
but anybody can go at 24. Equinox is very exclusive in that space. So I was like, I want to be around people that I know has certain careers so I can talk
Yeah.
to them about careers.
Yeah.
So I think that's what the being selective that year looked like for me, and it ended up paying off. But you have to be able to be in that position to be able to do that.
Yeah, and then just like, and then I get that part too, but then also just being selective. Like, I still think you can still, to a certain extent, strategize and be selective about where you go to. It may not be your dream job. It may not be a job that you necessarily hate, but it may, like you said, it may put you in a, you or smart enough to be like, okay, these people got to pay X amount of dollars. So there, it's not just, and I want to say like regular schmegglers, but it ain't just like your normal job. People,
Hmm.
like, they either they're doing something, either they own their own stuff, or they're working for a great company, or a company that's high wages, or whatever, paying
Yeah.
wages. And so it's still, you can kind of be selective in that sport. Like, even though that's not your end goal, but that can probably help you better get your end goal instead of just taking some random job.
Yeah.
I think that's also, um, I think that's also good that you did that,
Hmm.
knowing that could help you or even faster get to where you want to be.
Yeah, and I think that's the easy route for most athletes, right? Because we know how to work out, we know how to
Yeah,
train. All you
yeah,
need to do is go get the certification,
right.
because it's needed. But I feel like between Equinox and Lifetime, those are the type of gym that I will personally go to as a recent graduate to make sure I have money coming in, but I'm also like talking to people that are in certain positions of power.
Yes, yeah. No, that's a great nugget for, yeah, so you won't necessarily have to feel like you're, because I feel like people feel like they settle in if they go take some random job, like, oh, I'm settling,
Hmm.
and they get, again, you're already like struggling to figure out what you want to do, then you be depressed because you don't want to be at a job that you want to be at. So
Right.
I think that's a good nugget. um can you kind of to wrap it up a little bit, kind of give the the person that's about to, real life is about to start happening, like, any words of encouragement, any inspiration, or any kind of last little nuggets that you would give that person?
I would say remember that a sport is what you did and not what you are. And then also, don't be afraid to ask for help, whether it is from your peers,
Yeah.
from your mentors, or go get mental health support. Like, it's like a stigma. Like, just because you go speak to a mental health provider doesn't make you
Crazy.
insane. It
Yeah.
means that you are in touch with what you need, and you just need to talk to someone else that is not a direct, that does not have an interest in what affects you,
Hmm.
right? Because it does help you understand what your weaknesses are, what some triggers are. And I feel like doing that earlier in life is better. I
Hmm.
didn't start until after retirement because I was like, bro, I'm really depressed. Like, I need to talk to somebody that's not my
Yeah.
friend
Yeah.
because I don't know what's going on right now, right? But it
Yeah.
took that change for me to realize that I was not feeling the same.
Very.
So I feel like getting ahead of that and
Yeah.
talk about, hey, what do you think is going to happen once I go through this stage, instead of being in that stage and now having to find someone to help you get it out of it.
Yeah.
So I think that would be my advice. Like, ask for help and know that you are more than one thing.
Yeah. And so, yeah, and that's, you hit on that, because that sounds like more than 94. Like, you're more than an athlete. Like,
Yeah.
at that season in your life, yes, that's what you were, but you have other. You're a whole human being. You have more than just one thing that you're good at. Um, so that's the coin for the podcast. Is like, you're more than that
Yeah.
football field, you're more than a volleyball court. Like, you're more than just an
Yeah.
athlete, and just
100%.
getting the help and just asking for help. Because I feel like, especially athletes that were decent, that were good, like, you're so used to, like, okay, I'm not asking for her because my only way I'm gonna get out there is if I work harder. So that's all I need to do is work hard. And when you get to adulting and lifing, it ain't about just working hard. Like, there,
Listen,
you're not gonna be put in that same environment that I was on a basketball court in real life. That's not gonna happen ever again.
you don't have a coach,
I
guiding
can't
you.
go run suicides to,
You
like,
don't
there's
have a team
suicides.
telling you your butt. Yeah.
Right, like, going to put up shots is not an option anymore. Like, you gotta,
Absolutely.
so that you won't ever be put in that position in real life. It's just, you got to find a different way of taking those same kind of attributes in
Yeah.
So sometimes working smarter is going to help you
Hmm.
than working harder.
Yep. 100%. 100%.
And so we
Yes.
get so used to like, let me work hard. I'm like, but you working hard in circles. Like you got to figure
Yeah.
out how to work smarter. This is not being an athlete anymore.
Yeah.
And so,
No, that's funny that you said about the running circles. I was having a similar conversation with one of the guys that I interviewed for Global Life. And, I said something about when you get dropped into a career that you don't know, it's almost like being dropped in the middle of the ocean.
mhm,
And his response I loved because it was like, it's not that I can't swim. I just need to know what direction I'm swimming to. Because if you
mhm,
keep swimming in the same place, eventually you're gonna get tired and drown, right?
and drown. Yep,
It's a matter of giving me where I'm swimming towards. And
yep,
yeah, so
yeah. That's true. Like, yeah, that is good. Any kind of so if somebody's listening to this podcast, any kind of like last remarks or anything that you want them to get out of this podcast, like if you wanted them to hear anything that you said, what is the most important thing that you wish that they kind of grasp after listening to our conversation today?
I think it would be that you are not alone. Obviously, there's a lot of people that care about you succeeding in your life after
Hmm.
sports. There are a lot of resources out there. Like More Than 94 is here to like elevate your voice, right?
Yeah,
And giving space for people like myself to be able to share what I'm doing in my space as well. So I think it's just listen to the people that have been there and done that and take what aligns with you.
yeah. Dang, that's good. And then lastly, last little plug for Global Life. Can you kind of give us the like where is it at now and where do you plan it? Where do you hope for it to go?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. So right now, I actually have a AI based application that is in production for a MVP, so like a prototype.
Okay.
And the goal of the prototype is so that I can show the businesses that I want to have in our ecosystem. So the companies that want to hire athletes,
Mm-hmm.
I want to show them what this app can do and the value that it will add to their companies and why they should be part of the ecosystem. And then on the flip side, the same thing to universities, like,
Okay.
hey, your players should all have access to this. So I'm hoping that, once I get the application in front of these people and they buy into the concept and the idea and the goal, I can really
Mm-hmm.
build this ecosystem, and Global Life can be in every university, and just really help athletes figure out life after sports. It would be like a serve,
Okay.
like everything is in one place, so you can
Yeah.
help yourself. But
Yeah.
if you do need actual support from someone, there will be access to resources like career counselors, interview coaching, mental health support. So that is like the big vision, and the
Okay.
hope is one day to see it everywhere. But right now, we are getting the application done.
Oh, that's awesome. Do you have? I know you had mentioned like putting employers in there. Do you? And this may not. You may not have thought about this, but do you have like my kid may say, "Oh, I want to become an entrepreneur." What are the resources for to becoming an entrepreneur and not necessarily working for somebody?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Okay. Okay.
There's the idea is to guide them based on their interest. So
Okay.
like there's almost like a wall that you have to take some like the skill assessment and personality assessment to be able to pass to the next stage, so
Okay.
that we will know what needs to be
What's it?
shown to you, right?
Okay.
If you get in a job is not of interest, I'm not going to bore you with the job board, right? You
Right. I
should
got
be
you.
able to see, oh, this is a resource for you to be an entrepreneur. This is where you can talk to. This is where you should go. So that's definitely the goal, and that's why it's AI based,
Yeah.
because AI
That's
will
awesome.
learn from the users and it will just give you what you need to see.
All right, that's good. And so that's a good resource to like whenever you get that prototype done, I could if anybody asks me, I could be like, oh, I can shoot you to Global Life
Absolutely.
for a resource or, what's your next step as an athlete? If I, because again, it aligns, but I'm not trying to, necessarily unless it comes up. But I'm not necessarily trying to hook you up with a job. But I just want people just to hear the stories. Like it's okay not to have it figured out. It's okay. These other people did
Yes.
this, and so now you have a resource for them. Like, oh, okay, now I can go to Global Life and be like, I can take this assessment and I can get it. They can help me get a job
Yeah.
and go from there. And so
Yeah.
it's like you hear the podcast, now you might have a job, or you might,
There you
yeah.
go.
And the fact that it's AI based, that's awesome because that's where the world is going to. So
Yes.
there
Absolutely.
won't be that much guesswork. Um,
100%. That was the goal. Like
yeah,
remove the amount of extra effort that is needed. they make it as seamless and
Simple
easy
and
as
plain.
possible.
Yeah, that's great. Well, that's game, and thanks for coming on to More Than 94.
If I'ma start it, you know I'ma finish it. I'ma show all of you folk with the businesses. Walk